Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, HighLift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. Good morning. Good morning. Hopefully, we'll be able to give you some things to think about. So, my name is Matt DiFrancesco. I'm a certified exit planner and financial planner. And I specialize in working with the in the collision industry. The certified exit planning designation, there's only 130 of us in the whole world. Okay, there's a lot of other people that put themselves out as exit planners, but we are literally certified to help people to create transition plans. My specialty is really about helping the family business to ultimately create multi-generational wealth, and how do we align the business with that. So on the front end, what I do is help collision shops. How do we build value in the business? Identify where you are, and then where you want to go, and then what are the things that we need to do to get you to that end point. So, and I'll talk a lot about that. So, how many of you have either heard me speak before, or else this is your first time?
First time.
It's a loaded question, right? So anyway, and I got a ton of information that's in here. Probably, I mean, I don't want to get in the weeds too much with you guys, but I want you to listen a little and think a lot. So as I'm kind of going through things, think about some of the things that I'm talking about, and how, what are some things that maybe you need to do in your shops to be able to help to build the value of the business, because it's really all about the end game. So really, the first question I always ask is, how many shop owners are going to exit their business at some point?
Everyone.
Well, it's really everyone, right? Yeah, it's all of us. I mean, it's what's that?
When they put us on
Yeah, the retirement, death, disability. Hey, divorce. I mean, I've seen one of my partners. She owned 2 shops, and it was she and her husband were going through a divorce, and that's why they ended up selling the shops. Business disputes. Anybody in a partnership here? Okay. I mean, hey, these things happen, and there's business disputes, and sometimes, either the business has to be sold to one or sold to a third party, something like that, and bankruptcy. And then, the other one, and I never put this on here, and it's probably a real one, is health issues. I mean, sometimes somebody's health gets so bad that they have to exit the business, but they're not prepared to do that. So,
well, usually if it's,
when
you get older like that, you should have some kind of financial to where you can exit that business.
Wow, that's exactly right. But what I find is most shop owners don't. I mean, most of you guys, you grew up loving cars, you started working on cars, maybe you worked in a shop or sleeping floors, kind of build up. All of a sudden, you own the business, you started the business, you build it up, and you go and you've been under the hood all these years, right. And then they get to be our age, and you look up from under the hood and goes, holy shit, what now? What am I going to do? Right. Because you've never really properly prepared. And when I first started working with the collision shop owners in this area, a lot of times I was getting shop owners, they were coming to me. I do a 30-minute free intro call with them, and they're like, I'm burned out, I need to get out now, and they haven't created any options for themselves. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to do these things, because this is really what it's about, the revolving 5-year plan. So what happens is I talk to shop owners, they say, in 5 years I'll begin stepping away from my business. 5 years later, guess what they're saying? Well, in 5 years I'll begin stepping away from my business. And they get on this revolving plan because they've never done the proper planning up front. So that's the one thing that we want to try to get shop owners off of. And it's, again, they've just never adequately prepared, put a plan in place, and build enough value in their shop to be able to exit on their terms. I mean, I got a couple I'm working with right now. They're both in their mid-50s, all right? He's working 70, 80 hours a week. He's burned out. He's just like, I just want to get out now. They've got really good cash flow, and they live according to that cash flow. And I was running the numbers for them, and I'm like, you know what? We did a valuation on the business, and it's like, you're going to need to cut back somewhere because you've never done the plan, all right? And so that's really what I'm trying to address, and that's why I like to do these things, is to get you guys thinking about what are things that we need to do to get the business to a value that when we do exit, that we can live the lifestyle that we want. Because, man, we all work too hard, you know? To just not, just be okay. We're going to just do yard work, and sit on our porch and do these things. We want to be able to do things in our life. So why not prepare ourselves and put a plan together now so that we can have that eventual lifestyle that we want at the time point when we want it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what business value means. So let me ask you guys, what do you think the value? What does that mean when we talk about business value? Saleable, okay.
Price you can bring.
Price, okay. The price of it. What else?
How much money does it make?
How much money does it make, right? Anybody else? I mean, those, what's that?
I mean, I don't want to sound stupid or anything, but our business is built on our customers.
It's on your customers.
The lifelong generation. So the value of our business right now is so much more in the community and the generations that come through that than our cash flow.
So yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I don't think a lot of people think about that. Most of them are looking at revenue and profitability. All right, and they think that's where all the value is coming in our business. And what happens is a lot of times, maybe you go to your CPA and like, hey, what's the value of my business? And they give you, well, it's 4 times your cash flow. Oh, it's 5 times your revenue. They'll kind of throw out these numbers, and there's no real set formula because there's a lot of factors that are involved in value. And so when we look at these things, it's about your shop reputation, okay? Operational efficiencies. It's about what we do for our communities. Where are you in the market? Okay, how are you positioned in the market? Are you just, DRP, doing, any cars that the insurance companies are coming in, or do you specialize in a certain area? And I'm not saying any is right or wrong, okay? But these are all factors that are going to go into the value, what the value of your business is going to be. What's the future growth potential? Especially if you're looking at a third-party buyer at some point, that's what private equity is looking at. They're looking at the cash flow. What's the future growth potential of your shop? How much have you minimized risk? One of the biggest, and I'm going to talk a lot about this, is this owner dependency, is if the shop is really dependent on you, you really haven't minimized risk. Because something happens to you, and even a third-party buyer is going to look at a shop that's very dependent on the owner and say, there's not much value, because how long are we going to retain the owner? I mean, if you're selling the shop, you're going to eventually want to just exit, right? So, any questions on that? All right, so I like to talk about this because it's kind of I see a bunch of interesting scenarios, and it's really about the difference between what an essential owner is and an incidental owner. An essential owner is basically that the shop success depends on you, okay? That you have to be there. If you went and decided, I'm going to go on a month-long trip to Europe, right? Would the shop fold, or would you see a big decrease in production and in revenue? Okay, so the problem is that you constitute a significant portion of the value of that business. On the other hand, an incidental owner is that you not being there has no impact on your business. It has no bearing on your shop value. So, give you a good example. I have a client of mine. He's actually a young guy. He's in his 40s. Never was in high school, worked sweeping floors in a collision shop, ended up going to Notre Dame, studied pre-med, went to Villanova, started studying medicine, decided he didn't want to do that, went back to the shop, started learning the finance end of it, and bought the shops, bought 3 other shops. But we've actually created a scenario where, and it was funny, I finally got him in December to take 4 weeks off. I said, I want you to take 4 weeks off, December 15th to January 15th, no email, no contact with the shop, nothing. He did it, all right? And he's like, oh my gosh, we saw 35% growth in that period, which validated what we were doing here. And like the guy was telling you, the guy who's like burned out and wants to sell the shop, as we went through these exercises, and it's like, we're probably not going to get from a third-party buyer what you need for this. I said to him, what if we could get you down to 35, 40 hours a week? And so what we're doing is now I'm having to work with him and bringing in, other coaches that can help him to start getting this stuff out of his head, start empowering his own employees, that now he has the freedom to live the life that he wants to live without having to give up the shop yet. And you think about that. Think about if you could keep your shop but not have to be there every day. How much different would your life be? So that's the difference between an essential owner and an incidental owner. And you look at things like being a community asset. All of a sudden you start to realize, wow, this is something that's really important to me. Got a guy up in Massachusetts, and he was looking at third party, and I put clients through an exercise and say, okay, let's score these things from, basically just internal or, internal transfer versus a third party sale. And all of a sudden he scored equally. And it was like, he didn't realize, because I didn't realize how much, my culture meant to me, how much my employees meant to me, how much of a community asset I am. And I asked him, I said, because he lives like 5 minutes from the shop. He would have to drive by it every day. And I said, if you had to drive by that every day and you had to see one of the big consolidators, you had to see Caliber or Classic or Gerber on that sign, how would that make you feel? And so now we're in the process we're looking at all the options, because I always like to look at plan A's and plan B's, but really we're creating how are we going to start transferring responsibilities that he has to other key employees. Make sense? All right. So what can becoming an incidental owner mean to you? First off, it can enable you and your family to achieve a financial security, because you don't have to be there, but you still have the cash flow that's coming in. Okay. It'll empower your employees to feel like a part of the shop's success. So you start creating that kind of family atmosphere, which is one of my very first collision clients. It was funny, as we went through this process, he realized that he didn't want to give up the business. Now, he had a son that was in the business and a key employee, but he wanted to, he's like, I just don't want to do the operational end, but I love building up my employees. I love building a culture, all right? And so that's what he's really been doing, is empowering his employees. And it's amazing, because he's seeing tremendous growth since he's done that. I mean, he went from in a 2-year period from doing $4.5 million in revenue to $6 million just by empowering his employees. And again, it'll make the shop much more attractive to a successor. I get a lot of shop owners that come to me and say, we're looking at exit options. And I said, well, do you have any family that's in the business? They don't want to have anything to do with it. Well, a lot of times they don't want to have anything to do with it, because they see you working 60 hours a week, and millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Ys, they don't want to do that. It's not that they're not any less ambitious. It's just, we baby boomers, we wear that as a badge of honor. Right? Or I put 60 hours a week in, all right? They're like, well, I want to have some lifestyle too. So if we're able to empower the employees more, that's going to make it much more attractive to especially our kids, or maybe a key employees that would be interested in taking over the business, because now it becomes a well-oiled machine, kind of self-running. So any questions on that? Is this making sense? This means yes, this means no, this means I don't know what the hell you're talking about. All right, so why is building value in your shop important? Okay, again, it's always going to facilitate growth and expansion. Attracts and retains key talent. Anybody not having an issue finding talent? Right. Did you raise your hand?
I did.
Well, I'm going to have you come up here and talk.
Well, I'm always looking, and
yeah.
So that never stops.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're always looking for a yellow car, you're going to see yellow cars everywhere. But if you are always looking for those guys, the last guy I hired was a dude at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
That I would go get my breakfast every morning, and he was great. He was personable. He knew exactly what I wanted as soon as he heard my voice. And it's like, hey man, where do you want to go in life?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? And it's like, if you're always looking and you always enter into those conversations, then it's so much easier to find people if you're looking for it.
Right.
And so it's like finding those people that attract. We are a very big Christian base. No offense to anybody, not just using the name, but actually a Christian base. And finding those kids that are raised in those kinds of homes with the success being pushed on them in
Right.
the right way. It's, you surround yourself with, you are who you're around.
That's so true. And and I think there's a great book out called Who Not How by a guy named Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And that's exactly what it's about. It's about sometimes we figure out we've got a problem out there and we think, okay, how do I solve this? A better question to ask is, who can I get to solve this problem? And I think always having your feelers, even when you don't need somebody, because I think that's what happens. I think we hire when we need somebody, and we're kind of behind the 8 ball, where if we're always looking for talent and always looking for not just the people that have the skills, but who has the, but who's got the attitude. You could teach them how to do what you do, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody wants to learn, they can learn anything.
Right.
But I am also really big on hire fast, fire fast.
Yeah.
And it might look like, hey, your morals don't line up with mine,
Right.
and we're gonna have to let you go. Or it may be, hey, I don't think that you're fit for this, and I want what's best for you.
Right.
So you have as much time as you need to think about it, pray about it, and see if this is where you want to go. But if you are always just trying to fix a problem when it's happening,
Yeah.
then you're always going to be stuck in that position that you're struggling to find
Right.
talent. If you see somebody and you're like, hey, are you interested in this? You like cars? Do you want to come for a week or two, see what it's about? If you like it,
Yeah.
you crave it, then let's do it. But a lot of people don't give that opportunity
Right.
because of insurances or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
And so it's one of those things that we're very open to the kids that do shop class
Right.
coming and trying it out for
Yeah.
a week or two.
Right.
And just hanging around and seeing if it's an environment that they can survive in.
That's right. That's
You know?
exactly right. And I think an underutilized area of talent is women. And I think too many times I see this in collision shops. When you have women, they're typically on the front end, right? CSRs, maybe some estimators. But I mean, I see some really talented women painters out there.
We got one.
Yeah. I mean, women have a different perspective than us knuckleheads, right?
From Pennsylvania too.
Is she?
And she came in and her husband was a Marine and got stationed in Camp Lejeune. And she never had a job, but she went to a tech school for 2 years.
Really?
And she's pretty tough.
Yeah.
She's the third one down.
Okay.
But I mean, she don't have a problem popping a fender in a door or hitting 5 bumpers at one time. I mean,
Okay.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think that's an underutilized. I just did one. I have a podcast called Your Business, Your Life, which talks a lot about what happens in our life affects our business, what happens in our business affects our life. And I actually I talked with a woman who's part of WIN, the Women's Industry Network. She's on the board of what is it? But it's basically to help promote women in the industry. And that was one of the things that we talked about. So I think that's an underutilized resource that's out there. And like I said, painters, they've just got an eye for that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just
Women naturally have a better eye for paint.
that's it. That's exactly right.
Well, men are colorblind, women aren't.
Right. And it's funny on my business Instagram page. It's funny if I go into search, I can't tell you how many reels I see of these women painters, and they're doing beautiful work. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Some of them doing custom work, which is just phenomenal. So those are areas. Again, improving your market position, adaptability to industry changes. We'll all agree that this industry is changing rapidly, right? Okay, so the more we can build value in our business, maybe the quicker we can make the shifts that we need to as this industry is changing. Financial security is a given. Enhances loan accessibility. Again, if the better your cash flow, the more apt banks are going to be able to lend you money if you need that for expansion, for those type of things. If you're going to start getting into doing EVs, there's investments that are involved in that, so that's helpful. Increases attractiveness to buyers. We talked a little bit about that even earlier. Ensures a profitable exit, and this is a big one. I think this legacy and reputation. This is what you were talking about a little bit, and I think we minimize that too many times. Like, what kind of legacy do we want to leave? Especially if we've got a shop that's been in the community 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You know, is it important to maintain that legacy and being a community asset out there and being a reputation of doing the right thing all the time? You know, that's one of the things. I was at CIC, this was in November, it was the one that piggybacks off SEMA. And Frank Turlip, who was president at the time, asked me to be on a panel. I was the only non-M&A person on the panel. And so they're talking about what's happening in the market, consolidation, all this stuff. And then at the end, he asked one question. He said, so is the industry going to become like the big box stores out there? You know, like your Home Depots and your Walmarts. And I have a habit of doing this. I had the mic, and I just said, "Oh, over my dead body," and everybody laughed. And I kind of said, "It's not that those places don't have a place, but like in my little town, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, okay, we have a Home Depot, we have a Lowe's, and then we have Bentley Hardware. Bentley Hardware is the family-owned, 75 years hardware store." Okay, when I have a job to do at the house, I go down there and say, hey, I've got this problem, and they'll literally walk me through the store. Oh, you need this, oh, you should try this. Do you need this tool? Those type of things. And I get that very personalized, customized service. Do I pay a little bit more? Yeah. But you know what? I value the local reputation that they have, and I value the personalized service. And then I said the independent shop can be that. And I think this is the best time in the industry to be independent because you guys can set yourself apart. I mean, anybody see the work that some of the big consolidators do? It's crap, isn't it? Right. And so they're doing a disservice not only to the industry, but what about the customer whose vehicle is not getting repaired properly the way the manufacturer built it, all right, for their safety? So I think now's the time, man. Being an independent shop, man, I think now's the time. We got to grab and roll with this thing. So again, bottom line, again, it's about creating a robust, sustainable business that's going to thrive in the present and also ensure, profitability and legacy in the future.
Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of High Lift Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, DBA High Lift Financial, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state security authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.